So, picture this. After 24 days, a huge wildfire in California is finally contained. I mean, you'd think, right? That's everyone breathing a sigh of relief, yeah?
Absolutely. A moment for, a collective exhale and the start of recovery efforts. A hard-won victory for sure.
But get this, on that very same day, the day they announce 100% containment on the fire, something else happens that, well, it kind of flips the script.
Oh, this sounds intriguing. Like a sudden plot twist. What happened?
We're diving into a transcript today from the Ring of Fire on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it claims that on that very same day, Donald Trump supposedly orders the Army Corps of Engineers to release, get this, billions of gallons of water from 2 dams in California.
Wow. Okay. That's a pretty bold claim. So in this deep dive, we're going to try to unpack this whole thing, look at what the source says about the reasons for this action and, what they say the consequences might be, especially for things like summer crops and the food supply for the whole country.
Yeah, basically we're going to follow the thread of this narrative. So we've got the fire contained, everyone's happy, right?
Yeah, a real sense of accomplishment and a chance to finally focus on rebuilding.
But then, bam, same day, according to this transcript, Trump tells the Army Corps of Engineers to start this massive water release from these 2 dams.
So the timing here is really interesting, like right on the heels of this positive development. What does the transcript say about the scale of this water release?
Well, they claim it was a dramatic increase. It went from like a trickle, 57 cubic feet per second, to over 1,500 cubic feet per second.
Whoa, that is a huge jump in water flow. Such a sudden surge would have a major impact downstream, wouldn't it?
And it did, according to the source. Local officials are quoted saying that this rush of water almost caused flooding in the areas that were just hit by the fire.
So the source is highlighting a disconnect here. If the fire was contained, why this sudden release of so much water, especially in a place already vulnerable?
And this is where it gets even more concerning. This water that was released, they say, it was supposed to be used for irrigation, for farmers in Southern California to water their summer crops.
Okay, so now we're not just talking about potential flooding, but the impact on agriculture, on the ability to actually grow food.
Right. And the source is pretty blunt. Without that water, the crops will die, leading to, crop failure, plain and simple.
Water is the lifeblood of farming, especially in a region like Southern California. Losing that irrigation water during the peak growing season could be devastating.
And it goes further. They say this localized crop failure could have a ripple effect, leading to food shortages and price increases for everyone across the U.S.
So they're connecting this local event to a potential national crisis. What about recovering from this? Can those dams be replenished?
The source says it's unlikely, not without some serious help from Mother Nature. They say it would take both, way higher than average rainfall and higher than average snowmelt over the next 4 months to even have a chance.
And are those conditions likely?
The transcript suggests it's a long shot. So it's not looking good for those farmers if this all went down the way they claim.
It's like a perfect storm of bad news, right? And as if things weren't tough enough, the transcript mentions another factor that complicates things even further.
Right. They bring up the labor shortages that farmers are already dealing with, saying that many migrant workers are too afraid to work because of fear of deportation.
So even if there was some way to find alternative water sources, or if the weather suddenly took a turn for the better, the lack of workers would still be a huge problem.
Exactly. So let's put it all together. According to this source, the alleged order leads to the release of this water meant for irrigation. No irrigation, the crops fail. Widespread crop failure impacts the national food supply, meaning potential shortages, higher prices, the whole 9 yards.
So they're presenting a pretty clear cause and effect chain of events here, with significant implications for a lot of people.
Now, before we go any further, I think it's really important to remind everyone that we're not here to, validate or deny the truth of these claims. We're here to look closely at what this specific YouTube transcript is saying, at the story it's telling.
Absolutely. We're focusing on the content of the transcript, the logic it presents, not passing judgment on the politics involved or whether the initial claim is true or not.
Right. So they claim Trump ordered this, local officials were concerned, they explain why that water was so important, and they predict these potentially huge nationwide consequences. That's what we're diving into here.
It's like we're dissecting a piece of evidence, trying to understand its internal structure and what conclusions it's pointing towards.
So we've looked at the timeline, the alleged order, the immediate local reactions, the potential disaster for those farmers, the possible impact on the national food supply, and the challenges for recovery, especially with those existing labor shortages.
It's a complex and concerning picture, at least according to the narrative presented in this transcript.
And the source is very clear. They say all of these problems stem directly from the alleged actions of one person, Donald Trump.
That's a pretty strong statement, laying the responsibilities squarely at the feet of one individual.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it really makes you think about all the potential consequences that could come from decisions like this, especially when you factor in things like environmental pressures and the challenges farmers are already facing.
It highlights the interconnectedness of all these systems, how a single action can trigger a chain of events with far-reaching consequences, many of which might be completely unforeseen.
It's a lot to consider, and it leaves you wondering what other dominoes might fall, what other unintended outcomes could emerge from this kind of large-scale intervention in such a complex system.
It really underscores the need to consider both the immediate and the long-term implications of any action that impacts vital resources like water, especially in a world facing increasing environmental and agricultural challenges.
It's definitely something to ponder.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a fascinating discussion.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.
And keep those critical thinking skills sharp. We'll see you on the next deep dive.